There's a paradox at the center of modern life that almost everyone feels, but few people fully confront. It's the tension between choosing money and choosing fulfillment. And the strange thing is, most of us have been trained to believe we can't have both, that we must either sacrifice our happiness in order to survive financially, or chase our joy and somehow be irresponsible. But what if this entire assumption was built on a misunderstanding of how reality actually works? What if the real truth is that money follows energy, and that when you choose fulfillment, you actually unlock the deepest pathways to prosperity? That's what we're diving into today. Because this isn't just about career choices or paychecks, it's about the very nature of abundance and the way consciousness creates reality. Think about how many people you know, maybe even yourself, who wake up every day to work that doesn't ignite them. They get the paycheck, they cover the bills, but inside there's this subtle emptiness, that quiet voice that says, "Is this it? Is this really what life is supposed to be?" And when that voice gets too loud, most of us push it back down because the world tells us to be practical, to play it safe, to trade our time for money and call it success. But let's pause and question that story. Because if that story were true, wouldn't the people who have played it safe feel truly secure? Wouldn't they feel alive, vibrant, fulfilled? The reality is, they often don't. Because security without fulfillment is just another form of poverty. It's poverty of spirit. Now here's where the reframe comes in. In psychology, we know that human motivation is not just about external reward. Research from Desai and Ryan in their self-determination theory shows that our deepest drive comes from autonomy, competence, and relatedness. In other words, we thrive when we feel free, capable, and connected. A job that only offers money but strips us of joy fails these psychological needs, and the nervous system knows it. That's why people in misaligned work often experience burnout, anxiety, and depression. Their biology is literally rebelling against a life that doesn't match their inner truth. And here's the quantum layer on top of that psychology. Physics teaches us something radical, that the observer is not separate from the observed. The famous double-slit experiment shows that particles behave like waves of probability until someone observes them, and then they collapse into a definite outcome. What does that mean for you and me? It means your attention is the collapse mechanism of your life. Whatever you focus on, you are choosing into reality. If you keep focusing on fear and scarcity, if you keep choosing the path of safety at the expense of your soul, you're collapsing the probability field into exactly that reality, a safe but unfulfilling loop. But if you begin to focus your attention on joy, on fulfillment, on the state of abundance itself, then your very act of observing from that frequency reorganizes your reality. The opportunities, synchronicities, and income streams that match joy start to appear. Not because you force them, but because coherence creates flow. This is what the HeartMath Institute has been studying for decades. When your heart and brain are in coherence, you access higher-order creativity and problem-solving. You literally become more magnetic, both neurologically and energetically. So here's the paradox. Choosing money over fulfillment actually blocks money, because it cuts you off from coherence. It disconnects you from creativity. It silences your magnetism. And choosing fulfillment, even if it feels uncertain at first, actually opens the financial flow because you are aligned with life itself. Fulfillment is not a luxury, it's a strategy. That doesn't mean you should quit your job tomorrow and hope the universe pays your rent. It means you can build a bridge. You can use short-term income streams as a foundation while channeling daily energy into what lights you up. You can dedicate an hour a day to your true mission, building momentum until that momentum carries you. This is how transition works, not by leaping into the void without wings, but by learning to trust that your wings appear as you take aligned action. Let me ground this with a metaphor. Imagine you're weaving a tapestry. Every day you have threads of energy you can place. If you place them only in survival patterns, you weave a tapestry of scarcity. It might look stable, but it feels lifeless. If you begin weaving even a few threads of joy, that color spreads. Over time, the tapestry becomes radiant, alive, magnetic. The universe responds because you are broadcasting a new frequency. And speaking of frequency, let's talk physiology. When you force yourself to do misaligned work, your nervous system contracts. Cortisol rises. The brain shifts into beta wave dominance, which is linked to stress and tunnel vision. Creativity shuts down. This is why you can't think your way out of scarcity from that state. But when you engage in fulfilling work, even for a short time each day, your body shifts. Dopamine rises in anticipation, oxytocin from connection, serotonin from meaning. Your brain enters alpha and theta rhythms, which are linked to creativity and flow. You literally gain access to a different intelligence. This is why following fulfillment isn't naive, it's neurologically intelligent. It places you in the state where breakthroughs happen. It's quantum tunneling in action, the ability to pass through barriers not by force, but by frequency. And let's not forget, endings are beginnings. Sometimes choosing fulfillment means ending an old chapter. That can feel scary because the ego clings to the known. But in quantum physics, even the vacuum is not empty. It's full of fluctuations, full of potential. So when one pathway ends, you're not left with nothing. You're left with infinite possibility. The end of one job, one identity, one pattern is not chaos. It's intelligence reorganizing you for higher alignment. This is where trust comes in. Scarcity says I must sacrifice joy for money. Abundance says when I choose joy, money finds me. One is contraction, the other is expansion. And your nervous system feels the difference immediately. Which brings me to you. If you're listening, you already know this choice is alive in your life. Maybe you've been playing small, holding on to the safe path, waiting for a sign. Maybe you've been telling yourself that fulfillment is a future luxury, something you'll earn after enough years of grinding. But what if fulfillment is the very key that unlocks prosperity? What if choosing it now, even in small ways, begins to collapse a new reality into being? So here's the activation. If you're feeling this, drop a comment with the word abundance or coherence. Not just for me, but for yourself. That word becomes an anchor, a signal to your own subconscious that you're ready to live from alignment. And we're only scratching the surface here, because underneath the money versus fulfillment debate lies the bigger question. Who are you? Are you the false self, the image that was conditioned to survive, to please, to play it safe? Or are you the true self, the field of consciousness itself, expressing through this form? Because when you remember who you are, the choice dissolves. Money and fulfillment are no longer opposites. They are one expression of alignment. When you really start looking at the deeper nature of choice, you see that every decision is a broadcast of identity. You're not just choosing a job, you're choosing a frequency. You're choosing what version of yourself you're telling the universe you are. And the field is listening. The field is participatory. It mirrors back what you embody, not just what you think about. This is why affirmations often fail. Saying, "I am abundant," while living in a state of fear collapses the probability into fear. But when you embody abundance, when you make choices from joy, when you align your nervous system into coherence, then reality has no option but to reorganize around that broadcast. This is the observer effect in daily life. It's not a scientific abstraction. It's the mechanics of manifestation. You are the observer, your choices are the measurement, and reality collapses accordingly. The difference between money and fulfillment is really the difference between decoherence and coherence. Decoherence is when your mind is scattered, divided, operating in fear. Coherence is when your heart, mind, and body are aligned in joy. And coherence is what creates synchronicities, those magical alignments that look like miracles but are simply the natural flow of an ordered universe responding to ordered consciousness. Let me give you an example from psychology that mirrors this. Csikszentmihalyi's work on flow shows that people in flow states not only perform better, but feel deeply fulfilled. Flow happens when challenge and skill meet in perfect balance, when you're stretched but not overwhelmed. What's fascinating is that people who design their lives for fulfillment tend to enter flow more often. And flow is not just a state of joy, it's a state of genius. Athletes break records there, artists create masterpieces there, entrepreneurs innovate there. Money follows flow, fulfillment produces it. So again, the paradox dissolves. The belief that you must choose money over fulfillment is like trying to choose the shadow instead of the sun. The shadow only exists because of the sun. Money is the shadow. Fulfillment is the sun. But let's address the fear, because it's real. The fear says if I leave the known, I'll be unsafe. That's the ego's protective mechanism. And it's understandable. The brain is wired for survival, to avoid uncertainty. Studies in neuroscience show that uncertainty activates the same neural circuits as physical pain. This is why people would rather stay in an unhappy but predictable situation than face the unknown. But here's the deeper truth. Uncertainty is not danger. Uncertainty is possibility. It's the superposition of your life, the place where multiple realities exist until you choose. And this is where courage comes in. Courage doesn't mean eliminating fear, it means acting in alignment despite it. In fact, research by psychologist Barbara Fredrickson on broaden and build theory shows that positive emotions expand our perception while fear narrows it. So when you choose fulfillment, you expand. You see more options, you connect more dots, you notice opportunities that fear would have filtered out. The very act of choosing fulfillment changes the way your brain and body perceive reality. This is why disruption in life is not chaos, it's intelligence. When something falls apart, a job, a relationship, an identity, it's not random misfortune. It's the quantum field reorganizing you for alignment. The universe is probabilistic, not mechanical, which means endings are probability collapses that clear the space for new beginnings. The mistake we make is trying to cling to the old, patch it back together, force it to stay. That's scarcity consciousness trying to control. But if you surrender to the disruption, if you trust it, you pass through the quantum window, the opening for a leap. Think of it like a forest fire. On the surface it looks destructive, but ecologists know that fire is part of the design. It clears underbrush, returns nutrients to the soil, makes way for new growth. In the same way, life's disruptions are fertilizing your next level. Choosing fulfillment often requires letting the fire burn what no longer serves, so the soil of your life can grow something alive. Now, here's a practice that can anchor this for you. It's what I call the observer breath. It's very simple, but it rewires your nervous system. Take a slow breath in, and as you do, imagine you are breathing from the perspective of your true self, the witness consciousness, the field observing this life. As you exhale, release the identification with the false self, the one who is scared and small. Do this for 3 breaths, and you'll feel your system shift. Your body relaxes, your mind clears, and suddenly you remember you are not trapped in a job or a paycheck. You are the field itself, choosing new probabilities. And from that place, listen closely. You do not need to hustle for abundance. You are abundance. Scarcity is simply forgetting that truth. Every time you chase money at the expense of joy, you reinforce forgetting. Every time you choose joy and trust money to follow, you remember. And memory is magnetic. The field rushes to meet you where you are coherent. I want you to think of your mission here, because the intensity of your struggle is proportional to the depth of your purpose. If you feel torn, if you feel squeezed by this money versus fulfillment dilemma, it's because your mission is big. You came here not just to pay bills, but to shift consciousness, and that means your personal transformation is part of a collective transformation. Every time you choose fulfillment, you strengthen the field of awakening for everyone. You literally broadcast coherence into the planetary grid. That's how powerful your choice is. So let's integrate this into a new story. Here's your identity script. I am fulfillment in motion. I am abundance remembering itself. Money follows my joy because I am coherence. Hold that sentence in your heart. Whisper it to yourself. Let it be the new thread you weave into the tapestry of your life. And when you feel doubt, return to that observer breath and remember who you are. If this resonates, if you feel the shift, type the word alignment in the comments. Because that single word is not just an online interaction, it's a declaration. It's you collapsing the probability into coherence. And together, as more of us choose this path, we scale the mission. We evolve not just individually, but collectively. And in closing for this section, I want to reassure you, you are safe. The field is intelligent. You are not making this choice alone. You are supported and tangled with synchronicity, guided by a love that is universal intelligence itself. When you choose fulfillment, you are choosing alignment with that love. And love does not abandon you. Love expands you. There's something profound that happens the moment you realize you've been negotiating with life from the wrong premise. For most of us, the silent deal we made was this: I will give up my joy in exchange for money, and maybe later I'll buy back my happiness. But the field doesn't work that way. You cannot purchase back the essence of your being, because fulfillment is not a product, it's your natural state. When you give it up, you disconnect from the current that carries prosperity. It's like stepping out of the river and wondering why you're thirsty. The real deal life is waiting for you to make is entirely different. I will honor my joy, and in doing so, I allow money to flow as a reflection of my alignment. This is not about laziness or irresponsibility. It's about intelligence. It's about working from coherence instead of resistance. And when you work from coherence, something astonishing happens. The universe works with you. Opportunities appear that logic alone could not predict. Synchronicities weave together. People you've never met show up at the exact right moment. And the more you notice this, the more you realize that what we call coincidence is actually coherence in disguise. Think about times in your life when you followed your heart, even in small ways. Maybe you went to an event you felt drawn to, even though you didn't know why. And there you met someone who later opened a door for you. Or maybe you finally gave yourself permission to explore a passion, and suddenly it connected to a path of income you could never have forced into being. These are not accidents. They are the field responding to coherence. Quantum physics calls this entanglement, the mysterious connection between particles separated by distance. When one shifts, the other shifts instantly. Life works the same way. When you shift into alignment, your outer reality, jobs, people, opportunities, entangles with that shift. This is why you don't have to manipulate or control everything outside. The outer is entangled with the inner. Change one and the other reorganizes. But here's the catch. You can't fake it. You can't just say I'm happy while vibrating fear. You can't declare abundance while living contraction. The field is intelligent. It mirrors your true state, not your performance. This is why embodiment is more powerful than affirmation. Embodiment means living as if the truth were already real, choosing as if fulfillment is not optional, but essential, walking as if abundance is already you. When you embody, you collapse the potential into form. This is why ancient traditions spoke of faith not as blind belief, but as alignment with truth. Faith was never about hoping something external saves you. Faith was about remembering who you are and living from that remembrance. And neuroscience confirms this. When you act as if, the brain rewires. Neuroplasticity means every choice you make strengthens circuits. Act from scarcity, and you wire fear deeper. Act from abundance, and you wire coherence. So the real question isn't, should you choose money or fulfillment? The real question is, what circuits are you strengthening with your daily choices? Because those circuits become your life. And this brings us to dimensional consciousness. In the third dimension, everything looks separate. Money is over here, happiness is over there, and time is linear. Cause and effect dominate. So of course it seems like you must sacrifice one to get the other. But in the fourth dimension, you start to notice synchronicities. You see the cracks in the old story. You begin to realize that reality is more fluid, more connected. And in the fifth dimension, the paradox dissolves entirely. You see that money and fulfillment are not separate. They are both expressions of coherence. In 5D, life flows through you, not at you. Money becomes a byproduct of alignment, not a substitute for it. You don't escape 3D, you integrate it. You use money as a tool, not a master. But you stabilize more and more in 5D in the awareness that you are one with the field. And from that awareness, choices become simple. Not always easy, but simple. Does this choice expand me or contract me? Does it align with my true self or with my fear self? Ask that question daily, and you'll see the roadmap unfold. And here's what's beautiful. You don't need to know the entire path. You only need to take the next coherent step. That's all the field requires. Each coherent step collapses a new set of probabilities, opening the next step. It's like walking across a bridge that builds itself as you walk. Scarcity says, I need the entire plan before I can move. Abundance says, the path builds as I walk in alignment. Let's pause here and connect this to your physiology again, because your body is the antenna of your broadcast. When you are living in scarcity, your muscles tense, your breath shortens, your perception narrows. You send out a signal of contraction, and contraction attracts contraction. When you live in fulfillment, even in small moments, your body relaxes, your heart rhythm smooths, your brain synchronizes. You send out a signal of coherence, and coherence attracts coherence. This is not mystical thinking, it's measurable science. Heart rate variability studies show that coherent states literally entrain others around you. Your nervous system influences the field. So when you choose fulfillment, you're not just helping yourself, you're uplifting the entire collective. You're contributing coherence to a world drowning in decoherence. This is why your choice matters so much. It's not selfish to follow joy, it's service. Because your coherence becomes a stabilizing force in the quantum field. Let's make this practical with a tool you can use today. I call it the alignment scan. Once a day, pause and ask, what am I doing right now that drains me? And what am I doing that fills me? Write it down. Over time, you'll see patterns. Maybe certain tasks, environments, or people consistently drain you. Others consistently lift you. This awareness is your map. Gradually, start reducing the draining and amplifying the fulfilling. It doesn't need to be dramatic. Even a 10% shift in your daily energy allocation changes the trajectory of your life. Because that shift compounds, This is the quantum compounding effect. Tiny, coherent choices ripple out into massive probability shifts. You don't need to burn everything down overnight. You just need to redirect energy daily into joy. The field will do the heavy lifting. And remember, abundance is not something you chase. It's what you are. Scarcity is simply forgetting. So the daily practice is not to hustle harder, but to remember. To remember in your breath, in your choices, in your posture. To remember in your words, in your generosity, in your courage. This remembrance is what aligns you with the infinite potential of the field. So let's anchor this with one more activation. Speak this with me in your heart. I choose fulfillment as my baseline. I trust money to mirror my alignment. I walk as coherence. Feel the resonance of those words not as wishful thinking, but as truth. Because the truth is, you are the field, experiencing itself as you. You cannot be separate from abundance. You can only forget or remember, and every day, in every choice, you are remembering. The most powerful things you can realize is that money is not actually about numbers. It's about relationship. Think about it. Two people can earn the same amount of money, but their experience of it will be completely different. One feels safe, free, and expansive, while the other feels anxious, trapped, and lacking. Why? Because money mirrors your frequency, not just your effort. When you approach money from scarcity, no matter how much you have, it feels like it isn't enough. When you approach it from fulfillment, even the smallest stream feels like flow, and that flow naturally expands. This is why people win the lottery and end up broke again. They never shifted their frequency, so the money only amplified their scarcity. And it's why others with modest beginnings can build massive wealth. Because they aligned their inner state with fulfillment first, and the money mirrored that coherence. The outer always mirrors the inner. There's a study in behavioral economics by Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton that shows money increases happiness only up to a certain point, around $75,000 a year in the United States. After that, more money doesn't significantly increase day-to-day happiness. But what they also found is that life satisfaction, which is more connected to meaning and fulfillment, continues to rise. So what does this tell us? That chasing money as a substitute for fulfillment hits a ceiling, but anchoring your life in fulfillment has no ceiling. So if fulfillment is the real multiplier, why do we resist it? Because we've been conditioned to believe safety comes from the outside. As children, we were taught to seek approval, to perform, to earn love. Later, that conditioning transferred to money. We started to believe that only by earning enough would we deserve safety, freedom, happiness. This is the false self at work, the protective identity that believes we are incomplete. But your true self knows something deeper. Your true self is the field itself. It doesn't chase safety because it is safety. It doesn't bargain with life because it is life. When you live from the true self, you stop outsourcing your worth to a paycheck, and you start embodying worth as your baseline. And when you embody worth, money flows towards you because the field mirrors coherence. Here's a metaphor to make it simple. Imagine you're tuning a radio. Scarcity is static. You keep twisting the dial, trying to catch the signal, but all you hear is noise. Fulfillment is tuning into the station perfectly. Suddenly the music comes through clearly and you realize it was always there. You didn't create the music, you just aligned with it. That's how abundance works. The music of prosperity is always playing. Scarcity keeps you in static. Fulfillment tunes you in. This is why living from joy isn't irresponsible. It's the clearest signal you can broadcast. When you're in joy, you're in coherence. And coherence is what collapses new realities. Let's talk about coherence and decoherence in simple terms. In quantum physics, coherence means particles or waves are aligned, working together as one. Decoherence means they're scattered, out of sync. In human life, coherence is when your thoughts, emotions, and actions line up. You feel clear, magnetic, in flow. Decoherence is when you think one thing, feel another, and do something else entirely. It's inner conflict, and conflict blocks flow. So ask yourself, how often are you living in coherence? How often are your thoughts, feelings, and actions aligned in joy? Most people live in decoherence and then wonder why they feel stuck. The secret is not more force, more hours, more hustle. The secret is alignment. The moment you align, the field aligns with you. This is why breakthroughs often happen in moments of relaxation, not stress. You're in the shower, on a walk, meditating, and suddenly the solution appears. That's coherence. Your brainwaves shifted into alpha or theta, your nervous system relaxed, and suddenly you accessed intelligence that stress had blocked. Fulfillment naturally creates those states, which means fulfillment is the state of breakthroughs. And this is also why forcing yourself to stay in misaligned work backfires. You might earn the paycheck, but you're cutting off access to the intelligence that could multiply abundance. You're trying to dig a tunnel with a spoon when you could be flying through it with quantum tunneling. Quantum tunneling is when particles pass through barriers that should be impossible, not by force, but by frequency. That's your life too. You don't need to bulldoze your way through obstacles. You need to shift frequency, and the barrier dissolves. Let me give you a real-world example. Think about entrepreneurs who left corporate jobs to start something they loved. Many of them started small, maybe even with less money at first. But because they were aligned, they accessed flow, creativity, synchronicity. They built something far greater than they could have inside the misaligned system. This isn't magic, it's coherence. Their nervous system was no longer fighting itself, so all that energy went into creation. And it's not just about business. Fulfillment transforms relationships, health, even time itself. When you live from scarcity, time feels linear, heavy, always running out. But in fulfillment, time becomes spacious, non-linear. You enter flow states where hours pass like minutes, or where minutes feel expansive. This is dimensional fluidity. In 3D, time is a prison. In 5D, time is a canvas, and you paint it with your frequency. This is why alignment is freedom. Not because you escape responsibility, but because you meet responsibility from coherence. You show up to life fully resourced, creative, magnetic, and from that state, even challenges become opportunities. Even endings become beginnings. Let's anchor this with another simple practice. Each morning, before diving into tasks, ask, what is the most fulfilling thing I can do today that also serves my future? Start your day with fulfillment. It might be creating something, connecting with someone, moving your body, meditating, or building your passion project. By starting with fulfillment, you set your frequency, and that frequency shapes the entire day. Over weeks and months, this practice compounds. Your life gradually reorients around fulfillment. Money begins to flow from places you couldn't have planned. Opportunities appear that match your new baseline. This is the quantum reorganization at work. Reality reshaping around who you're becoming. And the most beautiful part? You don't need to control how it happens. You only need to embody. Active surrender is the key. Not passive waiting, but active trust. Showing up daily in fulfillment while releasing the need to manipulate outcomes. This expands possibilities instead of contracting them. So let me leave you with this. You came here not to survive, but to expand. Your mission is encoded in your fulfillment. The intensity of your current struggle is proof of the scale of your purpose. And when you choose joy, you're not abandoning responsibility. You're embodying your true responsibility to live as coherence and in doing so, to uplift the collective. If you're ready to claim this, type the word abundance in the comments. Not just as a word, but as a declaration, because when you speak it, you align with it. And when enough of us align, the field shifts for everyone. You are safe, you are supported, and you are the field itself, remembering its abundance through you. When you begin to integrate all of this, you realize that life has never actually been about the choice between money or fulfillment. It's about the recognition of who you are while you're making choices. Because if you believe you are small, limited, and separate, then every choice feels like a trade-off. Do I trade joy for survival? Do I sacrifice meaning for security? But when you remember you are the field itself, those trade-offs dissolve. You realize that both money and fulfillment are simply reflections of coherence. They're expressions of the same root frequency. The problem is not the world, not the economy, not even money itself. The problem is the misidentification with the false self. The false self lives in separation. It sees itself as incomplete, unworthy, and disconnected. And from that perspective, of course, money becomes a crutch, something to chase in order to feel whole. But the true self knows it is already whole. It doesn't need to chase because it already is abundance. And when you live from that state, life mirrors wholeness back to you in both joy and material prosperity. Psychology gives us another way to see this. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs has often been misunderstood as a rigid pyramid where you must secure survival before self-actualization. But later in his career, Maslow spoke about transcendence, about the way self-actualization can actually feed survival. Fulfillment can generate resilience, creativity, and even material security. He recognized that higher states don't just come after survival, they can feed and transform it. This mirrors the quantum truth. Alignment with your higher self creates the conditions for your survival needs to be met more easily. This is why following your joy is not just spiritual fluff, it's deeply practical. Joy is intelligence. It's your internal GPS, guiding you toward coherence. Every time you ignore joy, you disconnect from that intelligence. Every time you follow it, even in small ways, you align with it. And alignment is what creates sustainable prosperity. Let's ground this with a metaphor. Imagine you're sailing a boat. Scarcity is like trying to row against the wind, exhausting yourself for every inch. Fulfillment is raising the sail and catching the wind. You don't stop working, but your work multiplies because you're aligned with a greater force. This is the difference between hustling in misalignment and flowing in coherence. Both require effort, but one depletes you while the other amplifies you. And here's something important. Coherence doesn't mean everything is easy all the time. It means even challenges serve your expansion. When storms come, they teach you to navigate more skillfully. When endings arrive, they clear space for new beginnings. This is why I often say it's design. Life doesn't break you, it reorganizes you. The field is intelligent, always moving you toward greater coherence. Think about neuroplasticity again. When the brain encounters disruption, it has the chance to rewire. Old circuits break, new ones form. That's not damage, it's adaptation. In the same way, when life disrupts you, when a job ends, a plan fails, a door closes, that's not punishment, it's adaptation. The field is rewiring your reality to align with who you're becoming. But to experience this as intelligence, you must shift your perspective. If you cling to the false self's narrative, you'll interpret disruption as loss. But if you remember your true self, you'll see it as alignment. You'll see that the fire is clearing space for the forest to renew. So let's go deeper into embodiment, because this is where many people get stuck. It's one thing to understand these principles, it's another to live them daily. Embodiment means you don't just talk about abundance, you act from it. You don't just affirm joy, you design your day to include it. You don't just meditate on coherence, you breathe, walk, and speak from it. Here's a practical tool. Choose an anchor word, something simple like coherence, abundance, trust, or flow. Throughout the day, repeat it silently whenever you feel yourself slipping into scarcity. Let it bring you back to alignment. Words are frequencies. They can rewire your nervous system if you use them with presence. Over time, this anchor word becomes a bridge between the false self and the true self. And here's the deeper layer. Embodiment is contagious. When you live in coherence, you entrain others into it. Just like tuning forks resonate, just like heart rhythms synchronize, your coherence influences the collective. This is why your personal alignment is never just personal, it's planetary. Each time you choose fulfillment over fear, you contribute to the awakening of humanity. This brings us to mission. You're not here just to earn money and retire safely. You're here to expand consciousness. That's your mission, whether you frame it spiritually, scientifically, or personally. And the greater your mission, the greater the intensity of your initiation. This is why the choice between money and fulfillment feels so pressing in your life right now. Because your mission demands alignment. The old strategies won't carry you where you're meant to go. So let's reframe the entire question. It's not should I choose money or fulfillment. It's how do I embody fulfillment so deeply that money naturally follows. That's the quantum question. That's the alignment that dissolves the paradox. And the answer begins with small, daily actions. The observer breath, the alignment scan, the anchor word, the morning practice of choosing joy first. These are simple, but they shift frequency, and frequency shifts everything. If you've been waiting for permission, here it is. You are allowed to choose joy. You are allowed to trust that money will follow. You are allowed to live as coherence. In fact, it's not just permission, it's your responsibility. Because when you live as coherence, you fulfill your mission. You uplift the field, you expand the collective. So I invite you right now, breathe into your true self. Feel the field around you and within you. And declare, I am not here to trade joy for survival. I am here to embody fulfillment and let money reflect my abundance. Feel how that shifts your state, even in this moment. That shift is the new probability collapsing into reality. That shift is the bridge. And as you move forward, remember this. You don't need to see the whole path. You only need to live the next coherent moment. That's enough, because coherence compounds, and coherence creates miracles. If this resonates, type the word coherence in the comments. Not just as an interaction, but as your personal signal to the field. That single word can be your turning point, the moment you declare alignment. And with that, know this. You are safe. You are supported. You are the field itself, remembering abundance through your every breath. There's a moment, a turning point, when you stop living life as a negotiation with fear and begin living as an expression of alignment. For many, that moment feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. On one side is the familiar, the job that pays the bills, the safe choices, the well-worn path of compromise. On the other side is the unknown, the work that lights you up, the path that feels alive but carries uncertainty. And the mind says, what if I fall? But the soul whispers, what if you fly? And here's the thing, most people never take the step. Not because they don't want to, but because they wait for certainty before moving. They want the bridge fully built before they start walking. But the field doesn't work like that. The bridge builds itself as you walk. Each step taken in coherence creates the next stone. You don't get to see the whole structure until you've already crossed. This is why trust is so essential. Trust is the frequency that stabilizes the unknown. Without it, uncertainty feels like chaos. With it, uncertainty becomes possibility, and possibility is where miracles live. Let's connect this with what we know from neuroscience. The amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for fear, lights up in moments of uncertainty. But studies show that when you pair uncertainty with curiosity instead of fear, the brain shifts. The prefrontal cortex, associated with creativity and decision-making, activates. So uncertainty is not the problem. The problem is the meaning you assign to it. Scarcity assigns danger, fulfillment assigns possibility, and that assignment changes your entire biology. This is why the practice of reframing is so powerful. When something ends, instead of saying I'm losing everything, you reframe. Life is reorganizing me. When a door closes, instead of I'm rejected, you reframe. The field is redirecting me. These reframes shift your nervous system into coherence, which allows you to see opportunities you would have missed in fear. Think of it like a tapestry again. When one thread unravels, it looks like destruction. But zoom out, and you see it's part of a larger pattern being woven. The unraveling is necessary for the next design to emerge. Life is the master weaver. Fulfillment is the pattern. Your only task is to keep offering threads of joy, not fear. And let's take this even deeper into quantum principles. Superposition tells us that multiple realities exist at once until observed. Right now, there are versions of your future where you stay in misaligned work and versions where you thrive in fulfillment. Both exist in the field. Which one stabilizes depends on your choices, your embodiment. Every action you take is a measurement collapsing probability. So ask yourself, which future am I observing with my choices today? Am I collapsing scarcity or abundance? Entanglement shows us that nothing is separate. The choice you make ripples through the field, affecting people and opportunities you haven't even met yet. When you choose joy, you're not just shifting your own life, you're shifting countless entangled connections. This is why synchronicities happen. They're the echoes of your choice reverberating through the field. And coherence? That's the glue. Coherence is what turns potential into flow. Without coherence, even opportunities slip through. With it, even the smallest seed grows into something extraordinary. So the question comes back again, should you choose money or fulfillment? And the answer is becoming clearer. Money without fulfillment is decoherence. Fulfillment, even if the money isn't immediate, generates coherence. And coherence generates money. Now let's talk about physiology again, because embodiment happens in the body, not just the mind. When you live from fulfillment, your heart rhythm becomes more ordered. HeartMath research shows that this state of coherence influences brain function, hormone balance, and even immune strength. You literally become healthier when you follow joy. And from that health, you have more energy, more focus, more capacity to create value, which of course brings in more money. The opposite is also true. Stay in misaligned work long enough and your body pays the price. Stress hormones stay elevated. Inflammation rises, creativity collapses. This is why so many people get sick when they're in jobs they hate. Their biology is screaming, you're out of alignment. Fulfillment isn't just good for the soul, it's medicine for the body. So the practical takeaway is simple. Choosing fulfillment is not a luxury. It's survival on a higher frequency. It's not irresponsible. It's intelligent. Because a fulfilled human is a coherent human, and coherence is what sustains life. Let's anchor this with another daily tool. Each evening before bed, ask yourself one question. Did I live in coherence today or decoherence? Don't judge yourself. Just notice. And if the answer is decoherence, set the intention. Tomorrow I will take one step toward joy. That one step compounds. That one step shifts probabilities. And here's the activation for this moment. If you're ready to live as coherence, type the word fulfillment in the comments, because when you declare it, you begin embodying it. The field responds to embodiment. Let me remind you again, you are safe. You are supported. You are not standing at the cliff alone. The field is with you. Love itself is the wind beneath your wings, and when you take the step, you won't fall. You'll rise. There is a deep relief that comes when you finally understand that abundance was never something you had to chase. It was always something you had to remember. Scarcity is forgetting. Abundance is remembering. And each time you choose fulfillment, you're remembering. You're remembering who you are, what you came here to embody, and how reality actually works. This remembering changes everything. It changes how you see work. No longer a burden, but an expression of your frequency. It changes how you see money. No longer a source of stress, but a mirror reflecting your alignment. It changes how you see time. No longer a linear prison, but a canvas you paint with your choices. And as this remembering deepens, you begin to see that your life is not random. Every disruption, every ending, every closed door was the intelligence of the field, guiding you back to coherence. Nothing was wasted. Every step, even the painful ones, brought you here. And here is the threshold, the place where you choose not from fear, but from alignment. Let's talk about protective identities for a moment. The false self is clever. It tells you, be responsible, don't risk, stick with what's safe. It disguises fear as practicality. But when you look closely, you see it's not protecting you, it's limiting you. True responsibility is not to play small, but to live fully as the being you came here to be. The world doesn't need more people trapped in survival. The world needs more people lit up in coherence. This is practical mysticism. It's the merging of the sacred and the everyday. It's bringing quantum truth into the way you answer emails, the way you choose projects, the way you spend your mornings. Mysticism is not escaping the world, it's embodying higher truth in the world. That's what fulfillment is. Not just joy for yourself, but service to the whole. And this brings us to scale. Your mission is bigger than you. When you live in coherence, you broadcast it. Your family feels it. Your community feels it. Strangers entangled with you feel it. The field feels it. This is collective evolution. Each individual shift strengthens the collective grid. Each coherent choice makes it easier for others to remember too. So the intensity of your challenges? That's not punishment. It's proportionate to your mission. The deeper your purpose, the more the field presses you into alignment. That pressure you feel between money and fulfillment? It's initiation. It's life saying, you cannot hide and compromise anymore. You must embody your truth. And here's the good news. The tools are simple. You don't need to master everything overnight. You just need to practice. The observer breath to return to true self. The alignment scan to notice what drains and what fuels you. The anchor word to bring you back when fear takes over. The morning practice of joy first to set your frequency. The evening reflection of coherence to compound alignment. Simple tools repeated daily build coherence. And coherence builds miracles. So let's integrate everything into a new story. A story where you are not a victim of economy or circumstance, but a creator collapsing probabilities. A story where you don't sacrifice joy for money, but allow money to follow joy. A story where disruption is not chaos, but design. A story where you are not small, separate, or incomplete, but the field itself, remembering abundance through you. Here's the one-sentence identity script for you. I am coherence. I live fulfillment. Money mirrors my alignment. Say it with me silently. Let it anchor in your nervous system. Let it become the broadcast you carry into the world. And as we close, let me offer you reassurance. You are safe. Even in the unknown, you are held. The field is intelligent. Love is guiding you. You cannot miss your path because your path is within you. Each time you choose joy, you're stepping onto it. Each time you choose coherence, you're walking it. And no matter how many times you forget, you can always remember again. So if this message resonates, if you feel the shift, I invite you to declare it. Comment with one word, abundance. That single word is your activation. It's your signal to the field that you are ready to live from alignment. And subscribe so we continue this journey together, building coherence as a community. Because together, our choices ripple out into the collective, creating a new story for humanity. Remember this mantra as you go. I am safe. I am abundant. I am coherence. Money follows my joy. Carry that with you. Let it guide your choices. And watch how reality reorganizes around the truth of who you are.